for the Palestinian people comprises both the West Bank and Gaza and, of course, East Jerusalem. And so it's essential, in my opinion, to ensure that reconciliation takes place between the rival factions in Palestine in order to ensure that the right to self-determination of all Palestinians is fully exercised. And I think this is particularly important as Palestinian representatives go into a peace conference, because it's essential that the peace conference address the question of a future Palestine from the perspective of all Palestinians, not just Palestinians belonging to Fatah. Well, of course, the main problem for the future is Israel, and my mandate is to examine human rights violations, and it's very clear that the human rights situation is worse than it has ever been in the Palestinian territory. The situation in Gaza is bleak as a result of the closure of the crossings, which has created a serious humanitarian crisis, but the situation in the West Bank is not much better because the wall continues to be built, settlements continue to expand, the number of checkpoints has increased in recent months, and there's a humanitarian crisis in the West Bank as well as in Gaza. And of course, a further complication is the Israeli control of the Jordan Valley. I've spent this afternoon visiting the Jordan Valley, and it's clear that Israel is determined to maintain its control over the Jordan Valley as well. So from a human rights point of view, the Israeli government is in serious violation of important human rights norms. Here I might mention the failure of Israel to comply with the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, its violation of the Geneva Convention of 1949, its violation of countless UN resolutions and of general international law. So Israel is in serious violation of international law, and I find it very strange that the international community prefers to condemn the Palestinian people for their violations of international law without addressing the violations of international law by Israel. I suspect that I've achieved very little. One of my early reports of 2003 did contribute to the request for an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice. Since then, I have reported objectively, I hope, and accurately on the situation in the Palestinian territory, but the international community in New York is not prepared to consider my recommendations seriously. And here I think particularly of the quartet comprising the United Nations, the United States, the European Union, and the Russian Federation. The Quartet is responsible for directing the peace process in the Palestinian territory, but in my view, the Quartet has behaved in a very one-sided manner. It has failed to condemn Israel for its countless violations of human rights. It has failed to even acknowledge the existence of the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. If one looks at the most recent statement issued by the Quartet at its meeting earlier this week in New York, one finds that the Quartet seems to be blissfully unaware of the human rights situation in the occupied Palestinian territory. It makes no mention of the wall or checkpoints or military incursions into the West Bank or of the situation in Gaza. And quite frankly, I find my position to be a very frustrating one, because I am called upon to report to the United Nations on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territory, but my report clearly falls on deaf ears as far as New York is concerned. Perhaps I could just mention that I think it's important to distinguish between the United Nations agencies on the ground in the occupied Palestinian territory and the United Nations in New York. The United Nations agencies operating in the Palestinian territory perform a wonderful work. They are responsible for addressing the humanitarian crisis and for assisting the Palestinian people in the crisis that they face. But as I've already indicated, the Secretary General and his staff seem to be determined to pursue a pro-Israeli line, largely because they are instructed to do so by Washington. Well, I think it's essential that the peace process be promoted by an external body, be it the United Nations or the United States. I don't think that Israel and Palestine will settle their differences without external prompting and external advice. But I think it's important that the international community, in addressing the situation, should do so in a fair and even-handed manner, which takes account of the interests of both Israel and of Palestine. And I think it should also have regard to the fact that the Palestinians are, as the occupied people, the victim in this situation. One hears too little of the fact that Palestine is still occupied territory, both the West Bank and Gaza, and of course East Jerusalem. And of course one should also have regard to the fact that Israel is in violation of many important international conventions and the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice. I think these are factors that should be factored into the negotiations. I think it's very important that the United Nations and or the United States should assist both parties in reaching agreement, but they must do so within the parameters of international law. with due regard to human rights considerations.